I'm 78 years old, and I'm sitting alone at the small kitchen table we once shared. The house is quiet now in a way it never used to be. Not peaceful, just empty. I lost my marriage after 32 years because I thought I had more time, and that sentence still doesn't feel real when I say it out loud. I'm not telling this because I want sympathy. I'm telling it because there's nothing left to protect anymore. The protecting is what cost me everything in the first place. At my age, you stop pretending that silence is dignity. You realize it's just fear that learned how to behave. Most mornings, I wake up before the sun. That's new. I used to sleep like a stone. Now I lie there and listen to the house settle, pipes clicking, the refrigerator humming, sounds I never noticed before because there was always another person breathing nearby, another body turning in bed, another presence that made the quiet feel shared instead of abandoned. She's been gone for 6 years. People assume the end of a long marriage comes with shouting or betrayal or some dramatic final blow. That wasn't us. There was no screaming match, no slammed doors, no affair that made the story easy to understand. Our marriage didn't explode. It faded, slowly, politely, almost responsibly. That's what makes it harder to live with. When we met, I was 25. She was 23. We were both tired of pretending we weren't scared of adulthood. We liked the same cheap diners. We argued about music. She laughed easily, and I liked being the reason. We didn't talk about forever. We talked about next year. That felt safer. We married 2 years later in a small church with bad acoustics. I remember sweating through my suit. I remember her hand shaking when she tried to fix my tie. I remember thinking very clearly that whatever else happened in my life, I would always come home to her, and for a long time, I did. I worked. That's the simplest way to put it. I worked because that's what I was supposed to do. I worked because I was good at it. I worked because providing felt like love. I worked because my father worked himself into an early grave, and no one ever questioned whether that was noble. She understood. Or at least, she said she did. We built routines, morning coffee, evening dinners that got later and later as my hours stretched. Weekends that were supposed to be restful, but somehow always filled with errands and obligations. We talked about taking trips someday. We talked about slowing down after this next phase. We talked about everything except how lonely we were becoming in the same room. The thing about time is that it lies without saying a word. It lets you believe that what you postpone will wait for you. Conversations, apologies, affection, attention. You assume they're parked somewhere safe, ready to be picked up when life calms down. Life does not calm down. It just changes its noise. There were moments. I see them now like small warning lights I ignored because the engine was still running. Her pausing at the doorway when I stayed late again. Her asking gently at first if we could eat together more often. Her falling asleep on the couch with the television still on because waiting for me had become a habit she was tired of maintaining. I told myself I'd make it up to her. I told myself she knew I loved her. I told myself that stability mattered more than attention. I told myself a lot of things that allowed me to keep moving without stopping to feel uncomfortable. I thought love was durable. I didn't realize it was perishable. We didn't fight much. That was something I used to be proud of. Now I understand that what we called peace was often avoidance. We learned how to step around each other's disappointments without ever naming them. It felt mature. It felt civilized. It was neither. There's a particular kind of damage that comes from things not being bad enough to force change. When there's no crisis, you assume everything is fine. You don't see the erosion because it happens grain by grain. She started doing more things on her own. Book clubs, long walks, visiting friends without me. I encouraged it. I told myself it was healthy. What I didn't ask was why she had stopped asking me to come. I remember one night clearly. I was 47. She had cooked dinner. I called to say I'd be late again. She said okay, not angry, not disappointed, just okay. And something in her voice sounded finished in a way I didn't recognize at the time. I ate leftovers alone at my desk that night and felt strangely proud of my dedication. I wish I could reach back and take that pride away from myself. Years passed like that. Birthdays celebrated with cards instead of presents. Anniversaries acknowledged with plans that never quite happened. We still shared a house. We still shared responsibilities. We stopped sharing ourselves. The turning point didn't come with drama. It came with a doctor's office. She had been tired for months. I noticed, but I didn't stop. She had appointments. I missed one because of a meeting I told myself I couldn't reschedule. The diagnosis wasn't fatal, but it was serious enough to change things. I remember sitting in the car afterward, her hands folded in her lap, staring straight ahead. She said very quietly, "I didn't think I'd feel this alone sitting next to my husband." That should have stopped me cold. It didn't. I apologized. I promised to do better. And I meant it in the same way I always had, which was without changing anything. She recovered physically. Something else never healed. 2 years later, she told me she was moving out, not divorcing, just leaving. She said she needed to know what it felt like to exist without waiting. I nodded like I understood. I did not fight. I thought this was another phase. I thought time would smooth it out. She filed for divorce a year after that. 32 years ended with paperwork and a conversation that lasted less than an hour. No yelling, just facts, just exhaustion, just a shared understanding that we had already been gone from each other for a long time. I watched her walk away, carrying boxes I had once carried for her. I didn't cry until the door closed. I didn't cry loudly. I sat down and felt something collapse inward, like a room being sealed off forever. There are things you can't fix once you see them clearly. You can't go back and be present when you chose absence. You can't retroactively listen. You can't prove love to someone who needed it when it mattered. I tell myself sometimes that we had good years, and we did. That's what makes the law sharper. It wasn't all wrong. It just wasn't enough. Old age strips away distractions. There's no hiding behind busy anymore. You sit with the consequences of your patterns. You hear your own thoughts. You remember the tone of a voice that stopped trying before it stopped loving. If you're listening to this and you're younger than I am, I don't want you to panic. I don't want you to feel accused. I just want you to understand something I didn't. Time doesn't ask your permission before it passes, and love doesn't survive on intention alone. It survives on attention, on choosing someone when it's inconvenient, on showing up when there's nothing dramatic to show up for. I thought I had more time, more chances, more tomorrows where I could finally be the man I believed myself to be. I was wrong. Now, when I think of her, it isn't the big moments that haunt me. It's the ordinary ones I abandoned. The dinners, the silences, the hand I didn't reach for because I was distracted by things that no longer exist. If this story meant something to you, sit with it for a moment. You don't have to do anything dramatic. Just notice who's still waiting for you. As for me, I live quietly now. I tend a small garden. I reread old books. I carry gratitude and sorrow in the same pocket. And I tell the truth when I still can, because that's all I have left to give.